We move over here to not so fun stuff with the Mariners. Oh, yeah. That 3 game stretch to begin the final 10 games didn't go well done in Texas. Um, and it was like, all right, so now we've got this big final 7 game homestand against the Astros and against the Rangers. And that didn't go that well either, at least to begin. Because of how badly the Mariners had performed over the month of September, they needed some help to be able to get into the playoffs, let alone to be able to win the division title. Both of those things were still up in the air until the second to last day of the season. Um, but yeah, as you've kind of been able to guess, the Mariners aren't going to the playoffs. So, September 25th, we go into the Astros series here, a 1-5 loss in the opening game of that series. Our player of the game, second baseman Josh Rojas. Rojas, 2 hits and 1 run, the only Mariner to record a multi-hit game in that series opener. Just not great. The Astros have a lot of quality pitching in their team right now, and the Mariners just had no sort of rhyme or reason or answer to it. And that the fact of the matter that the Astros have such good pitching and the Mariners have really struggled offensively here in September didn't create for the greatest mix. So that I say that, but oh, well, and then our photo of the game here is right fielder Jared Kelenic not happy with the call, and kind of sums up his face, kind of sums up how everybody that's a Mariners fan felt after that. We go to game 2. The Mariners would win this one 6-2. Our player of the game would be catcher Cal Raleigh. 2 hits, 1 run, 1 RBI, and 1 walk on the day. Nice big game there for the Mariners to win that one. We go here to our photo of the game here by Brian Saldana. Brian got this. Ty France celebrating with a trident tie. Nice for him to kind of get in on the celebration there, get the last run there of the 6 for the Mariners, and really put them back in it. They needed this one. They arguably needed a sweep. Not necessarily, but you needed the series win. And if we go back here, you can see they didn't get that. Frustrating to begin this, last 7 games. They would lose that one 3-8. Our player of the game, third baseman Eugenio Suarez. Gino, 1 hit, 2 RBIs, and 3 walks on the day. And this also included an altercation. Julio struck out. Julio had a ugly game in this one, to say the least. And a friend of his, former friend of his now, Hector Neris, charged him after striking him out. And pardon me, struck him out. And the report was that Neris shouted a homophobic slur at him. Per Eugenio Suarez, who was on the on-deck circle at the time, Julio would not say what it was that he said to him. So that personally tells me all that I need to know, but who knows? And Julio didn't really like that. He took exception to that, and he said that he doesn't plan on speaking to Neris moving forward. So obviously, again, taking into the fact that Julio is really, really upset about it, and he doesn't get upset about stuff like that normally, just the other pitcher celebrating. The fact that Neris approached him after the strikeout, which never really happens, said those things. Yeah, it's very interesting to me, and it'll be really interesting to see if the truth ever comes out about that, because Neris has denied it. But again, if Julio doesn't want to be friends with him anymore, something happened there. We go over here to the Rangers series. So you lose that series against the Astros, and you at that point kind of need to sweep the Rangers, and you need some help. And it started off positively. The Mariners would win the first game 3-2. Our player of the game, shortstop JP Crawford. JP, 2 hits, 2 RBIs, a walk-off double in the bottom of the 9th. Our player of the game. Oh, wait, yeah. Sorry, I got my photos all mixed up here. Our second player of the game would try to hit a pitcher, Logan Gilbert. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 2 runs, both of them earned runs, 0 walks on the day. Nice outing for Logan there. And then our photo of the game here captured by Brian Saldana, JP shouting, "Let's effing go." Into the microphone in his post-game interview with Jen Mueller, and that really got people excited. Really big there. The Mariners had the bases loaded in the bottom of the ninth inning. They had them loaded with no outs. The next two batters, both of them pinch hitters, and Josh Rojas and Mike Ford, was Ford and then Rojas. My apologies. Would both go down, leaving J.P. Crawford, who has been the Mariners' best hitter with the bases loaded by far this season. JP would come through in the clutch and get that started. In the second game of the series, September 29th versus the Rangers, Seattle would keep things going in a big way. They would win this one 8-0. Our player of the game, once again, JP Crawford. JP, one hit, two runs, four RBIs, and one walk, including a grand slam in the fourth inning, which is seen here. Him kind of celebrating that with this photo by Liz Walter. Big win. The Mariners get the first two games of the series there in dramatic fashion in game one and emphatic fashion in game two, leading us into the third game of the series, September 30th. They really needed this one. They really needed this one because the Astros hadn't been losing their games, and that wasn't good for the Mariners in terms of a playoff spot and where they needed to end up. And the Blue Jays hadn't been either. And in the big game, this one was broadcast on national television on Fox. The Mariners dropped a dud. Their offense was bad. The starting pitching was bad. Luis Castillo didn't have his control. He walked a bunch of batters. It just all kind of fell apart. If the Astros won later in the night, then the Mariners would be eliminated from postseason contention, and they would. The Astros would win that game. There would be no walk-off for the Diamondbacks against the Astros, and the Mariners would be eliminated from playoff contention. Uh, really frustrating for many reasons, but we'll um, sort of get to that after we finish up this series here. October 1st versus the Rangers. After this game, didn't mean anything for the Mariners, but the Rangers needed to win it to help them win the AL West title. And the Rangers couldn't manufacture a single run. The Mariners would win this one 1-0. Our player of the game, starting pitcher George Kirby. George, 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, no runs, no walks, and 7 strikeouts on the day. This is kind of how I felt. You can see Mike Ford shrugging in our photo of the game by Liv Lyons. Just kind of surprised. I mean, the Mariners weren't exactly going try hard in this game. They got a lot of their starters out throughout the course of the game. They only scored 1 run on offense, and the Rangers and their mighty offense couldn't get anything. Before I get to the eliminated, our player of the week. I mean, it's hard to not go with JP Crawford. His slash wasn't too great over the last 7 games, a 261 batting average, 414 on base, a 565 slugging percentage, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, and 7 walks. But that 3-day stretch of in that last game against the Astros, he had a leadoff homer in the bottom of the first. In game 1 against the Rangers, he had a walk-off double. And then in game 2, he had the grand slam. Just an absolutely huge, 3-game stretch there to really, and especially to lead as the guy really who should have a captaincy on his chest for Seattle. Just the amount of players and the coaching staff who said that JP Crawford, this is his team, the role he's taken in the clubhouse, just kind of told you what JP means to this team. It just is funny to think back on the fans who really thought that this team should move on from JP this past offseason. So pardon me. Yeah, just kind of ridiculous and ridiculous to see the run that he had, the adjustments that he was able to make in the past offseason, the drive line. He says he's going to be back there this offseason, so it's just been remarkable. So yeah, the Mariners were eliminated from playoff contention. I'm going to do a longer video on this on our Circling Seattle Sports, at our actual Circling Seattle Sports account. So we'll go down there. But there were several different wrongs that weren't righted for this Mariners team. Free agency was a bust. You didn't really do much in free agency. Your biggest acquisition in the offseason was Teoscar Hernandez, and solid, sure, but still a high strikeout guy. And even if you take out the strikeouts for Teo, you still needed more than one bat, and you really only got one productive bat. Cooper Hummel spent the entire season basically in Triple A Tacoma. Colton Wong didn't work out here. He's postseason bound with the Dodgers. Um, Pulse, yeah, not worried about that. Excuse me. Um, yeah, so the offseason in terms of adding players was a bust. Um, Trade deadline. They talked heavily about wanting to add for the future. Dom Canzone, I think, if he can kind of work on his eye at the plate, very productive player. Ryan Bliss had a really solid year in the minors this season. Josh Rojas was a very productive major league player for the Mariners this year. So sure, the trade deadline. Edward Bizardo pitched a decent amount of innings. Um, so yeah, sure, fine. But really, I mean, you look at this season for the Mariners, right? And despite how things went poorly in the early parts of the year, and you could say, hey, you need to win these games early on. Yes, I would agree with that. I think it's kind of silly to be like, oh, well, it's early in the year and we'll put it together. No, the Mariners finished a game out of a wild card spot this year. A game. So if you had been able to be on the ball a little bit quicker, we would be having a much differently toned conversation right now. But we're not. We're not, right? So um that and you look at the end of August, they had this historic month. Julio was on fire, it was like, all right, they got on the plane to New York and the Mets and begin a 10-game road trip. They had the Adidas Run DMC suits on. It was a big thing. And then throughout the course of September, the offense looked like the first half offense chasing the ball too much, not really having that small ball approach, not really hitting for contact. Um, Whether you believe it's a curse on the Run DMC shirts or not, I don't care. I don't buy into that anymore. Um, but you take that, um, and you look at the way the offense performed, it was just abysmal, leaving a ton of runners in scoring position, leaving a ton of runners on base in general, and then sometimes not even generating that traffic on the bases, which is a problem in and of itself. But also take all of that, and that's my primary factor was how poorly the offense performed throughout the course of the month of September. You also realize the starting pitching kind of faltered a little bit too over the course of the month of September. So just unfortunate. Everybody's seen it by now, essentially, but Cal Raleigh made comments and he's basically like, we need to add players. We need to go out in free agency and add. We can't just kind of, excuse me, bet on the farm system and bring these guys up. If you're gonna make the next step, you're gonna go deeper into the playoffs, you're gonna go to the World Series, you're gonna win the World Series, you need to add players in free agency. You need to add winners. You need to add proven production players. And the Mariners haven't really done that necessarily outside of trades. They haven't been able to attract the big free agent like that. Since who I don't know, hell, Robinson Cano. So it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. I understand that. Um, I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna stop watching next year. No, one, because I can't, because it's my job. But two, you look at the monster that Julio is and realize, hey, he's 22 years old. He can only continue to get better and learn from things. So that was really positive to see because I know a lot of coaches were like, all right, I'll see you later. Good luck. So yeah, really frustrating. Really, really, really frustrating. But I feel like the path to success is wide open. It's up to the ownership, in large part, John Stanton, to say, hey, all right, we need to spend here. And how that hasn't happened, I don't know. Um, yeah, it's really hard to kind of fathom the sort of expectations that this team put on themselves and see the highs of the season and then know that we're not going to the playoffs. So, anywho, we will talk a little bit more about end of the season stuff next week.